Good evening. Welcome to the school board meeting of August 24th. Call meeting to order here at 7:32. Roll call, please, Ms. Belcher.
Peter Bealow.
Here.
Brian Boyle.
Here.
Stephanie Doobie. Here. Kim Sarah.
Here.
Donna Green.
Here.
Dan Guide.
Here.
Sue Sherman.
Here.
Gregory Spiro. Kelly Ward.
Here.
Seated with the board this evening is the Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Roxanne Wilson, and Student Representative, Brian Lavoie. The presence of other district administrators, as well as the Timberlane Teachers Association officers, will be reflected in the meeting minutes.
Okay, if we all could rise, please.
We pledge allegiance to our new student record.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. If we're going to put approval of minutes later on here.
Mr. Chairman,
I'm sorry, Mrs. Sherman. Go ahead.
before we get started the meeting tonight, I was wondering if we might be able to take a moment of silence for nurse Mary Beth Sharp from Sandown, nurse up there, who passed away a couple weeks back. She had recently retired due to her illness and battled hard, but lost her battle with cancer this August. So I'd really appreciate us taking a moment for Mary Beth.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sherman. Very nicely done. Okay, we go into delegates and individuals. Mr. Ryan Richmond's asked to address the board.
Good evening, Ryan Richmond, President of the Timberlane Teachers Association. I'd like to extend a fond welcome back to members of the board, administration, to students, staff, professionals that are watching at home or on live stream. We are looking very forward to the 2017-2018 school year with the Timberlane Teachers Association. Vice President Toth and I attended the new teacher orientation earlier this week, and 46 people, professionals of all levels of experience were present, very excited to start the new year, and 43 of them joined the Timberlane Teachers Association. So we start 2017-2018 stronger than ever. So you can expect a lot of activity from the association. One, we believe very firmly that Timberlane is a community and that all stakeholders should be supportive of each other. And so this year the TTA will be starting a community service project that will be ongoing, which we'll be giving more details about later in the year, because we believe that although we are professionals that work for the district, we're also members of this district, and we want to give back to the community that has supported the professionals in this district through good times and through rough times. Additionally, we are going to be looking forward to a year of improved communication and transparency and better respect amongst all stakeholders, because we're all here for the same reason, and that's for improving the quality of the educational experience of all the students that go to any Timberlane school. And so I look forward to that, and I welcome you all back. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, before we go into our current business, I just wanted to make a brief little statement here. The board, there's 9 of us on this board, and we're working very hard to do our duties to serve the public. And this year, the board might be looking at things that they've never looked at before. And I want to thank Dr. Farrell looked at for transportation. We are looking at all aspects of the budget, all aspects of the district. Our district runs on approximately $70 million a year. We will be working hand in hand with the budget committee this year. It's just, we have been, myself and Dr. Farrell has spent a lot of meetings with the superintendent and with Mrs. Belcher, doing research so we can bring stuff back to the board whenever, for actually board action. And it's a goal of mine to see if we can get this budget down coming up to the year, and we will continue to provide the services, as Mr. Richards mentioned earlier. So we maintain the Timberlane excellence. We don't want to go backwards in anything. A lot of the progress the district has made in the last 5 years, we want to continue to do that. But it's like an unstated goal as we look forward, so there's going to be stuff on the Tribune, there's going to be stuff on Facebook. So I'll just tell you that your school board's going to do whatever we can to serve you in the public. Anyone who wants to get in touch with me has any questions, I'm a pretty easy guy to get a hold of, but don't believe everything you read. And everyone sitting here at this table is doing everything they can to serve the public. There's no question in my mind about that. So with that, I guess we'll go into the first order of business. Current business, summer facilities project update.
Brian, can you pass the correspondence and the check registry stuff around? Thank you.
Hey, good evening. Thomas Geary, Business Operations Coordinator for the SAU.
Rodney Mills, I'm the facilities supervisor for the district.
It's our pleasure tonight to come back and update you since the last time Mr. Hughes presented on June 29th. If you've noticed in your packet, there is a spreadsheet. It's the same spreadsheet and the same numbers that Mr. Hughes presented, except we've added 3 columns. So the first column added was the actual cost of a project, which is what we will keep track of as soon as the project is completely closed out. The status of a project, and then also the completion date of the project.
We actually don't have
Yeah,
that.
we don't. Yeah, it's a single
It's one page.
page, double-sided.
Yeah, just before the pictures.
It's not mine.
I don't have it either.
Okay. Tom, so we appreciate you taking care of this side of the room.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
It was
Sorry,
buried, it was in
it's under
between the
the
minutes.
So everybody does have them.
Yes, thank you.
Rather than review them line by line, we put together just a quick slideshow of some of the highlights of the summer that Mr. Mills will speak to, and I will do my best to navigate the PowerPoint.
So as always, we look forward to the summer for many different reasons. One of which isn't always long hours and lots of work, but also we have the opportunity to bring together our complete team, our complete facilities team, meaning the custodians, the maintenance staff, the grounds guys. We also have we hire several students that work along with us too. And so all this work reflects everybody's hard work and effort as we look at these slides. This is a slide of the middle school common space expansion. There were 2 block walls that were removed to open up this space. A glass wall was added, and then access into the gymnasium from that space. What's really cool about this is we actually had one of our summer temp helps, one of our students, who really stepped it up and took on the majority of the painting on this entire project, and he did a phenomenal job. So that's always great to see.
And as you can see in the top right-hand corner, that graphic is another effort to kind of rebrand the middle school and bring it up to like a collegiate type of level with the logos and kind of ditching the cartoon tigers.
Hey, hey, hey.
Jeez, a lot of history there.
And those I'm sorry, those phrases are things they've used for, 40 years, so
My apologies.
thank you.
We also did Phase 5 of the parking lot here at this campus, and that actually completes the loop around the building. It was from the end of the high school down to the middle school. Along with that, there was a walkway that was put in at the high school that we kind of followed the natural path, the way the kids walked from the crosswalk into the canopy area, and kind of followed their suit and put a walkway in there for them. This was the gymnasium at the high school. We added 4 rooftops with heating, high-efficiency gas heating, and air conditioning. So all that ductwork inside, 4 rooftops outside. That's a very exciting project if any of you have sat through any of the sporting events at the high school. This is the access road paving project at the Pollard School. The access road was reclaimed and repaved with all of the appropriate lettering. All of the disturbed areas around the paving will be hydroseeded as well. So this was a kind of a cool project. This is Sandown Central. So many of you who have been into Sandown Central know it was shades of green. And so there was a new principal at Sandown Central, and she wanted to look at some color schemes. And so what's exciting about this project is we were able to do it in-house. I talk to my staff all the time and say we may be many schools, but we're one team. And so some of the schools that were ahead, I was able to pull some of the custodial staff and maintenance staff to go and get this project done. And it came out fabulous. The guys did an awesome job. This is some of the painting that we've done on this campus. There was the gymnasium area at the middle school, which finished up the painting on the exterior of that building. We also did the stamped asphalt in front of the PAC. That was prepped and repainted as well. And many of you probably noticed that all the doors are now maroon around the entire campus. And so there was a lot of painting done. I think it just ties the buildings together. It looks great. This is our science room renovations at the high school. We did 2 science labs, and we upgraded some cabinetry. We added some cabinetry along the back wall. All that dark cabinetry is new. The teachers' kind of lab bench work area is new. And then where the you can see on the top right, that oak cabinet that's there, that was like just kind of like an open space, and we removed the legs and actually installed cabinets underneath all of those overhangs in those science labs.
So the tabletop is flush with the cabinetry? So if I'm a student standing there at the sink area, I can see faucets?
Yep.
The cabinet goes straight down?
Correct, yeah. Yep.
And also additional data lines and other technology infrastructure was installed as well.
They still have their workstations, which are like cut in on the other side of those areas. The cabinetry doesn't
Okay.
come down flush. Yeah.
Oh, not on both sides?
Correct. So there's still areas for them to put their benches or their stools. Yeah.
And is that an emergency shower over there on the bottom right?
On the-
That was an emergency
Is
shower.
it gone? Because there's no drain for it.
It is not gone. That is there.
So there's just no drain for it.
That is correct.
So if it doesn't go off.
And last but not least, this is our storage filming platform. So we were able to take a storage container that we owned, that we had, and we were able to take the back doors off of it, put on a pair of double doors, put some siding on it, some trim on it, and make it into an attractive area where the athletics can have storage and where we could safely film the soccer games and such. So it turned out to be a great little project, and it really serves multiple purposes for the district.
I just have a quick question on that. How would one access that?
So we actually access it from the inside. There's a ship's ladder that goes to a roof hatch. And so the only way to access it is to have the code that opens the door.
And just to clear up any questions, because I know it was in the newspaper, the rating for that storage container, you can stack 529,000 pounds on top of it.
1,000 pounds.
Yes, 529,000.
529,000?
That's correct. Yes.
Stack them 10 high.
It's attractive.
Wow.
Came
Thank
out
you.
pretty nice.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
nice.
So that was just a brief overview of some of the highlights.
Thank you. I see none.
I just
Go ahead.
some of the things that are coming down the line is we're looking at some more sustainability in the district as far as even green cleaning. That's one of the things we're looking into, working with some suppliers, creating a master schedule for the grounds team and the custodial staff, and then working on having a good list of suppliers and contractors, which we're competitively bidding.
So I have a number of questions. Do we currently have a contract with somebody for the grounds now?
We do for the athletic fields, yes.
And how is that working?
We have had great success, great communication with the contractor. They have their specific heights dictated to them by which sport the students are playing. So each ball field, each sport has a different height that you have to go by. They've met our requirements so far, and communication's been great with them.
I think as part of that contract, they're supposed to come back to us with
Yeah.
a field management.
That's one of the reasons we went with that particular business, because not only did they have a great reputation, but that they offered us a long-range plan. I think it was gonna be a 5-year plan going forward. So I didn't know where that is in the hopper, if you've got anything going with him to get that done, so we can see what their 5-year plan is. for the
Sure.
fields.
We're in the very beginning stages of it because there's a lot of stakeholders involved. Part of it may involve resting one field per season, and that's going to involve the athletic department and their scheduling. But that
We
is
just don't want it
in the
left-
very beginning
left
stages right
behind.
now, correct.
Like we
Well,
want
that, and we need to see what it looks like as we go into the upcoming budget season.
Okay.
If there's going to be cost associated with this plan.
So, move it on to the front of the burner, maybe?
Yes, yes.
Understood.
Could we get an idea of when you can get back on the agenda and have that plan for us to see what the cost might be, or
Sure,
what the,
sure, I will,
what the implications of that might be?
yes, I can establish a timeline with the vendor, and if that's an action item, I can follow up with that.
Ken?
Yeah, thank you. The interior painting for Sandown Central, was that on this list?
I don't believe that's on that list. That was not presented to you on June 29th. So that is just an update of what was presented to you on June 29th. That was a
Right, so
project
this
that came
didn't
to
go-
fruition as soon as the new principal started. She wanted to brighten up the building, and we were able to move resources around in our operating budget to purchase the paint and use existing staff.
Wasn't a CIP.
It wasn't
project.
CIP
No, no,
and
hadn't
it
been.
wasn't facilities either. Yeah, it didn't go through facilities and
But-
it didn't go through CIP.
But it doesn't mean that they couldn't rearrange things and, take care of that painting. And hopefully came in less than $10,000.
Absolutely did.
So I noticed that the Phase 5 paving, has it been done for all the high school, the middle school, and the PAC, or just what you showed us here? Is it PAC to middle school? In other words, I'm wondering why the actual cost isn't here for that Phase 5 paving?
If there is no cost there, that means that we haven't completely closed out the project, but we did stay on budget and there were no change orders on the project. So I'm comfortable in saying that the price that was estimated should be the final cost.
Okay,
But
good.
until the invoicing and the closeout and the punch list items are all done, I don't want to put that number down.
Okay, and the interior, exterior painting project for the high school, is that completed now?
They are finishing up. We have a lengthy punch list for them to take care of, and then that number will be attached. So I would say they're substantially complete, but there are some items that they have to take care of.
All right, so of all of this list, are there things still outstanding that you'd like to draw our attention to?
I don't feel a need to do so. I think everything that is on the list has a scheduled date, and I think we're working towards meeting those dates.
Okay, Kim?
Perhaps at the same time we talk about the field management plan, we can also revisit the irrigation pond expansion and dredging, because that also has budget implications.
Yeah, we're gonna go that direction, right? We're gonna go that
Sue?
I mean, that's what's happening.
Well, that we deferred it, right. I just looked up, Donna, on some CIP stuff, so Phase 5 paving was budgeted at 125 in the CIP. The estimated cost through Busby was 148 and some change, so
Yeah, I
that's,
see that here.
yes, that's on the one we had back in June, when I took to put in my CIP folder, so I'd have it. So, be interesting to see what that figure is when you finally get it, Tom, that actual figure in that
Sure.
blank space.
Because it says the completion date was July 18th.
Yeah, but they haven't invoiced it all yet, I'm sure.
Like I said, invoice and closeout sometimes is the longest part of a project, so yeah, we'll get that info as soon as we can. But those are live numbers as of, I think I was right up against the deadline with Mrs. Belcher, so that's as of 3 o'clock this afternoon.
Good, thank you.
I assume you'll be staying for the discussion on the CIP? Later this
If I'm
evening?
invited, I'd be delighted to be here.
I
Yes,
think we'd love you to stay.
okay.
Yes. Thank you, Mrs. Sherman. Give us light.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Rodney.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I had a question about the dugouts, softball dugouts,
Yes. So the,
showing my agenda items.
sure.
So, I get questioned about those all the time. You still don't have an estimated cost for those. You still don't have a contractor for those. And you've got a planning date that you're gonna be done November 25th, so we're gonna do these in the fall.
Yes.
So they'll be ready to go for spring, not do it in the spring when the spring is spring.
No, that's why we put November 25th. We want it
Okay.
before the ground's frozen, and the reason why we didn't have the estimated cost is we sort of pivoted on the plan. In looking at the boys' dugouts, we want to make sure the girls' dugouts have equal dugouts to the boys, for the boys' baseball. So we're going to make sure that we put a lot of thought into the design and to the building.
And
So-
you're gonna speak to actual softball experts on.
Absolutely.
Those
One of
topics, 'cause it's
one of the
not
reasons
baseball.
why we haven't even begun the planning is, I mean, to poll the softball players, the coaches, and see what is actually needed. I think interviewing the people that are going to be the end user is the most important thing for a design.
Thank you.
So there's, along that line, so there is no design yet for these dugouts? I think it may be cement block, or what,
No, it's
any
gonna
thought
be-
process? What's going on here?
There are rough designs. We are talking about material selection now. I think the original plan was to use the existing chain link fence. We're looking at other options to have like an enclosed dugout versus just a chain link fence for the girls softball team.
Covered, needs to be.
Yeah, but I
That's,
think,
that's correct.
yeah, I would think for $25,000, you're gonna get a hell of a lot more than a chain link fence.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Any questions?
No, just looking at the things that we agreed on the other side of the page, when we made the motion to let, to give him that extra 50,000, is that what we agreed to? We voted a few extra dollars,
Correct, yeah.
so he
See,
could do
that's-
some
Yeah.
of these. You could see they've completed some of those small, got some of the low-hanging fruit, as we say, done. That's good.
Yes, so that brings up a good point. Do you know of the 50,000, how much you used?
I just added
I
this
believe
up.
that the vote, if I recall correctly, that it was all the projects were approved minus the observation windows, the electrical outlets,
Yeah.
and then under $10,000.
Yeah, it was, and that came to about 50,000.
Right, but I just want to know how much was
Oh, we
spent.
actually spent, what the actual cost was when you got it all done.
Right. It
Looks like he even deferred some of the ones.
3, 14, 30.
I think
think it
Danny
looks
did
about
that.
32.
It looks about 30, yeah.
32.
It's about 32. So we had enough, had enough.
It's been less, that's always a good thing.
I'd like to think so.
Nicely done.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Middle school, high school, master schedule.
Didn't we get this last meeting?
I don't remember.
Good evening.
Evening.
last time you met, I provided you with the master schedule for the high school and middle school. For this meeting, I was asked to prepare a document that shared with you the paired classes, those low enrolled classes that might be paired with another. You should have a table there in front of you that indicates that we have 4 classes, game programming, Design A, and Intro to Java. Those are 2 classes. They are low enrolled classes, however, they are paired with the same in the same class, same teacher. And we've got 2 other classes, German 4 and German 3. Those 2 classes are also paired. Again, same class time, same teacher.
Could I ask about basic programming? Basic programming 2A, that seems to have just 1 student in it.
Where are you, Donna, where on the page?
The
Top-
second page,
top line,
right at
second
the
page.
top.
Okay. Second semester class, right?
It is a second semester class. I will tell you that in my consultation with my team up at the high school, they did specify, ask me to make sure that I communicated that our class enrollments are still very much in flux. They, on a daily basis, they're having conversations, parents and students working out kinks that might be in the schedule. So though you see, as you mentioned, Mrs. Green, just a single student enrolled in that class now, that may have already changed up to this point, but you are correct. It is a low enrolled classroom or class.
So, isn't that something that could be offered online?
Could be another paired class when they get going.
Yeah, okay, it's the
Yeah,
second session.
that is a
so-
second semester, so
Semester
that may
class,
end
they
up
added.
being another paired class.
What would it
That
be
is a
paired
possibility.
with? Could I ask, what would it be paired with?
Probably
I don't
basic-
know. I-
Basic 1.
I didn't ask them about that. At this time, it's not a paired class.
And then we have Wood Tech 3, second semester with 2 students.
Wood Tech,
Wood Tech 3A. Second semester.
There's a variety of reasons why classes may appear and may be low enrolled classes. Anything from, we're growing a program to something that, very well may be that we're running out of interest, very engaging elective for a student, something that fits, future goals for our students. There's a whole variety of factors. Certainly, it's not a cut and dry, or even one specific factor for any one of these classes. I wondered if you folks might be interested in possibly continuing this kind of a conversation, maybe even in our CNA committee over the course of this year, to sort of take a look at that, even some of the lower enrolled classes.
Well, I think we
and
could
get
get-
into some conversation.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Sue.
Sorry, I've been off this summer, I'm not used to raising my hand.
Okay.
I'm wondering if that would bring to light, flesh out a little bit, some of Donna's questions. When you don't understand what that woodworking class is necessarily, or who the student is, or what that student's needs are, or what the commitment has been made to that student.
Absolutely.
Certainly, I can speak to the German situation. We committed through CNA that we would finish the commitment to those kids. And that's what we're gonna do, even though we're pairing that class up. So I think particularly some of these second semester low numbers at this time, which could go to 0. It could 0 out and we not offer that class second semester at all. I think it'd be, and come back with some more realistic second semester numbers, because looking at this totality like this is, again, it's picking and choosing that there's one kid here and one kid there, and why. Every situation is different for each kid.
And again, for at least another week or so, some of these numbers are going to be in flux. I do understand the one that you're speaking about with the basic programming. That's a second semester that you asked a question about, but others, they are in flux, at least for another week or so. Yes.
I did ask for this information on Project Lead the Way costs, and that's on the back page of this.
Yeah.
And I also look at the enrollment in these engineering programs. I'm not opposed to intro to engineering. I'm not opposed to introducing students to engineering. The majority of these courses are very low enrolled. Well, $12,500 is not particularly large amount of money for a program. I do recall, when I was working with the middle school, that the science budget for, say, the 6th grade for consumables was $500 for the entire team, for the entire year. And we're looking at a program that costs well over $12,000 for well under 100 students. That to me doesn't seem like an equitable use of resources, especially where we know that middle school is where you lose students in science and math, especially along with young women. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'd be glad to take a look at that, especially where we're expanding STEAM at the middle school, and take a look at what that consumables budget looks like, and maybe gather some more information there.
Seventh grade consumable budget was $5,000. Live equipment, live materials. I know that.
I know, and there
So
was
it's a whole
inequity between the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade.
Well, that's different topics.
Mm-hmm.
Earth science doesn't need many live creatures, but life science requires living things that cost a little bit more money, so they had a larger budget to spread across whatever the
So-
7th grade was at that time, 350 kids.
So the biological sciences require a lot of money, but if it's not biological, it doesn't? Is that the assumption? Because I'm looking at the engineering program that has well over $12,000, and I don't see any biological engineering in here.
Yeah, they didn't get any kids who wanted to take that. I guess I didn't turn enough kids on to
Well,
biology.
I'm just saying that this is non-biological, yet this budget is, this is a physical science budget that's well over 12,000, when you have the middle school physical science budgets, which are abysmally low, in my mind.
And this doesn't
Something I
cover
can
the
look into.
cost of
Again,
the
it's
instructors,
comparing-
the instructors.
The instructor,
No, it doesn't
The
cover the
instructional
teachers, no.
cost at all, so
Teacher
we really
salaries.
don't know how much this project Lead the Way is actually costing us, because we don't have the salaries here as well. So, and when I see that, civil engineering architecture, A, has 3 students, engineering design and development has 1, and aerospace engineering also has a very small number. I have to, aerospace engineering has 4. It seems to me that an introduction to engineering, I would agree with you, but, and, CAD and things like that, but the rest of these highly specialized ones, architecture, aerospace engineering, really, I don't see that is a reasonable offering, especially since they're so slimly subscribed to. So I would like to continue this conversation about actually all of the courses with low enrollment, because I think we need to have a policy on how we go forward with very, very low enrollment classes. Not to say we eliminate all of them, but like AP Physics has only, what is that? AP Physics 2 only has 4. We can't eliminate AP Physics 2, but obviously, because that's,
Why not?
well,
Again, you're talking about, you don't have enough information.
Yeah,
At least Kim, respectfully, Kim and I could talk science education all day long. Peter can jump in because of his science background. But I don't know anything about woodworking, other than it's a hammer and nail and wood thing. just don't think we have enough information. I don't think it's fair to the programs to talk about them and to kind of disrespect those programs and those kids that are in the Project Lead the Way.
Wait a minute. I
I don't get it. I don't know
Well, I
what we're
don't think-
trying to do here.
I don't hear it as disrespect to anybody, okay? So,
I feel it's a disrespect.
well, I'm sorry you feel away, but
Thank you.
I think, I don't want to speak for Mrs. Green, but I think these are just questions being asked in terms of everything. And,
Can we take them back to curriculum?
and I'm sure that's probably a better place to have this conversation, because I'm sure that it all gets down to dollars and cents. Obviously, there's just not, even if a course was no longer offered, I'm pretty confident that person would still be on our payroll. It was teaching more than that course. So,
Absolutely.
so that's, so obviously that there's more to the story, I guess. But I don't believe that, I don't believe it's fair even to other members of the board to sit back and say, because we don't have the educational background that either Dr. Farah does or Sue Sherman, mean that we can't adequately participate in
I know, but you
the
don't
conversation.
understand the program. Do you
Well,
understand the woodworking
No,
course?
I know, I think the questions that's being asked, I'm just hearing questions being asked. I'm not hearing any,
I'm hearing decisions being made that we shouldn't be
well,
offering the program.
first of all, no decisions get made unless they're made by the board. So if board, conversations can happen at the board level, and we'll just maintain our respect for each other, but I'm just hearing questions. So, and that's I think what we're here to do. So, and if anyone at home is hearing that, I will apologize that that's not the intent. We're not in here to show disrespect to anybody. So that's not what we're all about.
Could we funnel all those kinds of questions about specific classes, especially Mrs. Green has got some, and have Christie take them all to,
I'd be glad to make this an agenda item for our committee, bring together our deans, Mr. Woodworth, and engage in this conversation.
Sure.
You know, in CNA, absolutely. I think it's a good place for the discussion, and certainly our team from the high school can be there to engage in the conversation, answer some of the more specific questions as they relate to individual courses.
Can I also add?
Please.
I just want to add as we go through this process, because, you know, every school struggles with low enrollment courses, and they all have discussions about it at some point. But if you're truly going to be a school that is going to prepare kids for the future, you have to have the discussion, and you've got to follow the goals that you've prescribed, that you want all children to have opportunities for. And the minute you start taking those outliers out,
Absolutely.
you lose some offerings for some kids. So you have to be very deliberate about that conversation and what you want to have for your procedures. I think we look at these case by case the best way that we can. And we make those decisions, and that's when we decide to pair, that's when we decide to do some other alternatives. We have used virtual learning abilities for some of these students who we can't provide for. So I would hope that in this conversation with CNA, that it's not something in terms of just narrowing, but it's terms of how do we problem solve some of these lower enrolled courses.
thank you, Doctor.
Absolutely. We've also done, in addition to the virtual learning, in some instances, we'll do an independent learning type situation with an individual student, especially if it's, you know, I think a couple of these are capstone courses for students that are ending a program. So something like an independent study with the classroom teacher is something that we can look at. The virtual learning piece, there are definitely some options that we can be open-minded and, you know, have conversation about.
So could I just ask, is there any operational policy that requires a course to be cut with a certain number enrollment? Anything at all? Because of course, when we were all going to school, we all knew if we signed up for a class and there were less than a certain number, it wouldn't be offered. So
High school?
is there any operational philosophy in this district about that?
I think anything that's been done in the past has been case by case. I don't know of any procedure. I know that decisions have been made in the past and not every course runs, but I don't think we have a policy on this. I don't know if we need a policy, but we certainly need, I think, to have the discussion on whether or not you want a procedure put in place. We do it, you know, not everything runs all the time.
Microbiology was one,
Yeah.
had a lot of discussion about that.
So, but it's worth a discussion at
I
CNA
agree.
so that you have all the information.
And have the experts in the room that can flush out why that one kid's in woodworking or two in applied physics too.
I know where I work, that below, there is a threshold below
Yes,
which
I know.
those
Right,
courses
college.
definitely get looked at.
Right.
It is, no, but also here, there's no threshold, you don't, if a course is at 8, you don't necessarily take a look at.
There has
whether or
never
not
been a
it's
magic
6.
number that I know of.
I'm just, yeah, it's just a
Um,
question.
Right, so, and I know at college levels, sometimes there is, because of the cost of the college instructor. This is a little bit different just in terms of the breadth of what we have to offer, in terms of making sure that all kids have opportunities for, you know, whatever the skill level that they bring. College, career, advanced placement, those types of things. So, I don't think, and that's something that, you know, we can look at what the practice has been in the past, but I don't think there's a policy that guides any of that.
There is not at this time.
Dan?
In reference to Dr. Farah's with the $500 for the 6th grade science class, how do we know that's not all they asked for, though?
That's
We're
just
just gonna throw
consumables.
money at them and say, here, spend more? I mean, that's my
I
question.
could pretty much,
Is that what you're, I mean, I'm just asking, because I don't know. Sue said she had $5,000 in 7th
Only
grade,
for
so.
consumables. There was other
But
money.
for the 6th grade, how do we know they just, 500's
That's what-
enough?
That's what they requested.
Okay.
For the supplies they felt they needed to run
Their
or
program.
science or physical science. I don't know which they're offering now at 6th grade.
That
But
was my
at
question.
7th grade, we put in a request for that amount of money for those materials. That's just consumables.
Right, I understand.
Okay, I question, please.
I don't know for certain at that time what they asked for, but I am more than certain that they felt that they needed additional tools, because I brought some grant money in and got them started using some software and technology that they were very grateful to have, and that's when I was informed of their budget.
Okay, just general question, I know it's not part of the semester schedule, but I understand, so the high school has gone to block scheduling
Yes.
this year?
Yes.
So everyone's ready to go?
We are ready to go. Yes, we've done a lot of work this summer. Maybe we might have an opportunity, maybe CNA, maybe to the board, you know, early in the year to come talk with you about the work that has been in place over the summer, the work that we're doing with an educational consultant, some of the professional development that our educators have been part of this summer. But there's been a lot of work, and we are ready to go.
Good.
Yes, confidently.
That's good. Any question from the board? That's it. Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
That's it.
Absolutely. I think I'm staying with you
Oh,
for
you're
a
staying?
staffing
Oh,
update.
you're staffing update, good, wow.
All right. So, more good news. Everything looks really good for the start of the school year. All of our vacant positions have been filled with the exception of a high school math position, which has recently been posted due to a last-minute resignation request that you'll see in your personnel report this evening. We do have a plan for ensuring that that position is filled for the start of the school year next week. So, other than that, we are still hiring paraprofessionals for our schools. We still have a few positions that are still in need to be filled. And as I mentioned to you last time, still continuing to monitor the kindergarten at Danville. We're still right there on that maximum class size. If we had additional enrollment in kindergarten, full day or half day, we would need to have some conversation about how we might support that class, because it would be over the maximum enrollment number. But myself and Mrs. Barcelos, we've been in communication almost every day, just kind of checking in, making sure that we're still sitting right there at 20.
Good. Okay. Dan?
Make a motion to accept the retirement.
not quite yet.
Oh, I thought that's what we were talking about,
We're not in
staffing.
personnel rec.
My bad.
Sorry.
I did make mention
You did?
of it.
That's,
I did.
sorry. I was overlooking it.
You can do that in about
I rescind.
15 minutes.
All right, you got it.
There you go. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kristen.
Thank you, Christie.
Okay. Year-end budget finance fund balance. So, looks like, this is about 3 or 4 hours ago, Dr. Wilson, you became a fund balance guru.
I wouldn't say that,
So-
but I have the fundamental knowledge in terms of the process.
Okay?
But you do have the spreadsheet that was done by Mr. Dowd. And that gives you the information of what he has, and he's asked me to make sure that, he couldn't attend tonight, but he's just asked me to relay that this is, it's preliminary information still. The auditors have not finished with all their adjustments, so this is his best guess estimate right now. For the fund retention balance that you're going to have, if you look at the bottom left, before the capital reserve, you have 2 million, just over 2 million, less the capital reserve, which you have 250,000 that was done in the warrant article. That gives you the projected surplus of about 1.8 million, which is right in line with what he's expecting come the audit report. So with that amount of money, the decision of the board is really, do you want to put some money aside in this fund balance retention, which the law allows you to do? You've done it in many past years. And this money is really for emergency purposes. It's not spent on budget. It's not spent on things other than if an emergency occurs, you have the opportunity to use this money in a way that perhaps something wasn't budgeted. You had a catastrophic event for the roof, for example, on one of the schools. You had special education students who move in, and they come with perhaps some placements that they're already placed in, outside placements that we have not budgeted for. And I will tell you, we have 2 of those cases right now that we're not prepared for in the budget because of some move-ins that we've had. So in that regard, you know, that money is there for some of those emergency situations. You do have to go to the State Department of Ed to release or to get permission to use those expenditures. You can also hold it as a placeholder and decide that you're not going to use it for any emergencies, and then release it to help relax some of the tax burden for the next year. So it's really an opportunity for the board to put some money aside as a placeholder. And it's up to the board to decide how much money that's going to be, if at all. So that's the discussion in front of you today.
Okay.
So,
You all through that? Dr. Wilson, you all set with
I'm
that?
all set.
This is great.
so the current balance in the unencumbered fund balance is
You have to do them in
1.8, is that right?
That's your projected surplus.
That's the projected surplus.
That's with the 250,000 warrant article that you have to factor in, that capital reserve warrant article that
Right.
comes in.
Well, what's the current balance that we have? Don't we ask that every year? What we've got?
I think he adds it back
Adds
in.
it back in.
Because we have to set the number.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Yeah,
So I think he just adds it back into the anticipated,
right.
because we have to set, when we made that mistake once where we said, let's add 100,
Yeah,
and we couldn't add. You have to
yeah.
add the total amount, so.
So you can see some of the history, because Brian was speaking to me before the meeting about some of the history. You could see it there in that column, what they did, you know, this much, that much, how much they turned back, et cetera, so. Okay, thank you, Donna, for letting me ask those questions.
So, how much money do we have in our capital reserve fund right now, Dr. Wilson?
The capital reserve, I don't know if that is on here.
It's not on there, I could tell you.
Okay.
That's the account held by the trustee of trust funds.
correct.
I think it's it's a little over $1 million.
Yeah, it's not much more
I don't know
than
the
that.
exact amount, but it's just a little over $1 million.
I don't think we had that for the CIP.
It's really just over $1 million?
Yep.
It wasn't much money. It didn't grow it doesn't grow very big.
Wasn't as
when
high
you-
a number as
No,
we
you know, when
had
you only
thought.
put 250 at a time, it
I think
grows
Jeff
pretty
told us how
slow.
much was in there last time he was here, but I didn't
Million
write it down.
four?
I did write it down. So the other thing is that, of course, we've got a surplus of 1.8 million, an anticipated surplus of 1.8. That goes a long way towards funding unanticipated, because you see that surplus is built into the budget every single year. And that goes a long way towards catastrophic, unexpected expenditures. So, given that Sandown's taxes are gonna be, Sandown school taxes are anticipated to go up over 10% this year, I don't see any reason to withhold money that would normally go back to the taxpayers. Where
So keep none of it back, even a
No,
couple
I-
100,000, no?
that would be my, my motion. I'd like to
Well,
put
I
a
think-
motion forward that we contribute $0 to the, fund balance reserve retention fund balance retention fund this year. That's my motion.
I'll second for discussion.
Okay. I think, yeah, I think all the board members should weigh in on this, as far as I'm concerned. I'd like to hear some.
I think you should hold a little back.
Well, I have a question in regards to this projected surplus with the asterisk. I understand that the audit's not complete, but the year end ended June 30th. The MS-29 is due, MS-25 is due September 1st to DRA.
Correct.
It does not require that the audit be complete, so why do we not know what our projected surplus is?
You do know, according to his calculations, what the projected surplus is until he gets his adjustments from the auditors. And so this is his best estimate for you right now.
Well, when is the audit gonna be complete?
They have not completed all their adjustments. They're done with all of their analysis, but there's some adjustments that they need to do. So I can't give you the timeline because I don't know that. But it's definitely going to be soon because we have to be able to have all of this ready for some of the MS-25.
So, as Danville's representative to the school board, I would like the assurance of you, as the acting superintendent, that this MS-25 is gonna get in by September 1, so that the tax rates, or at least my town, could be set, so that we're not pushing towards Christmas when our tax bills get out. So is this, because as you know,
Yeah.
Dr. Wilson, this has been a problem in the past. And I personally would like an assurance that this form is gonna get completed by the district, by the due date, so that our town is not gonna be having the problems that we've had in the past with getting our tax bills
I
sent
will
out.
gladly talk with Mr. Dowd about that, and that's something that he's going to have to answer for you, because I don't have all of those, I guess what's ever in his work barriers right now in terms of not getting it done. I would assume that it is going to, because he's always talked about that as a deadline. So I will talk to him, and if there's an issue, we'll let you know.
I don't know how it can be, because that has to be signed by the school board, and our next school board meeting is after the deadline.
That is correct. That has to be signed by the superintendent and the school board chair and the members of the school board.
The whole board?
Yeah,
we all sign
The whole
it?
board is
Yes.
supposed to sign it.
So I don't know how that can be done.
It's always been the chairman.
And what's upsetting to me is that I know this has been an issue last year and the year before.
We
and
do have a new business manager, so
I-
it's a new day.
we-
Positive, positive.
The superintendent is in charge of the district, so in my mind, the buck
Business
stops
manager
there.
has to do
And
form.
our town was assured that this form would be getting done on time. I think we have it in writing.
So,
I will
Dr. Wilson.
relay that information and find out where we are in that process.
Yeah?
Is this the same form that relies on the other towns to complete something?
No.
That's a
No.
different one?
no,
That
It's
was
not
late
the
last
same
year,
form.
that's a different one?
yeah, that's a different.
Okay.
But it doesn't affect Danville, it does affect the other three communities as
Right.
well. It does affect our tax rate, the setting, da-da-da. It is, it's got a trickle-down effect to each community in our tax bills.
Right, but there was another form last year
That was late.
towns
Yeah, yeah.
didn't get it to us, the school, in time for us to get it to DRA.
Oh, the
so-
state, yeah, that's right.
Right, so that's what I was asking, if it was that same
This one
form. There
is-
was nothing we could do, we just didn't have everything to
This one
send
went
off,
in late.
so.
Right. But I mean, it doesn't really affect the conversation about if you want to fund
Yeah, if we're gonna
retention
hold
balance.
money
But
on
I will
it.
definitely follow up on that and get back to you about the timing of the MS-25.
Okay, let's get back on this fund balance conversation for a second.
So the motion on the floor is to turn it all back. Is
Yeah.
that what I understand the motion?
Well, I'd like to, well, that's the motion, it's been seconded. I think I'd like to, something of this nature, I'd like to hear from pretty much every board member. Peter, what do you think?
I believe we should have, we should keep some, 250, I don't know, I think 200 I could live with. I don't believe that 200 or 250 significantly alters what each taxpayer pays. I know, I understand the optics, but on the other hand, I think we need to responsibly operate this school district too. So 200 or 250 is something I'd be comfortable with. I'm not comfortable with zero.
Okay, just on the other side of the room there, Mrs. Doobie, you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I think that, I believe that Danville's gonna have an 8% increase in taxes this year, 8 or 8.5%. And, if we're looking at, I guess I suppose we can keep some of it, but my preference would be to have most, if not all of it, sent back to the taxpayers for that reason. Because I think it's gonna be very, very hard for people this coming fall to get those tax bills. It's gonna be very hard. And, so that's my thought process on it.
Mrs. Sherman, you already,
I think we should retain a little bit. I'd be okay with about, with 250. I'd be all right with 200, but 250 would be fine. The maximum we could hold back is a 1.2, right? We're not holding all of that back. We need to send that along. But I don't think I gotta agree with Peter. I don't think holding 250 back would have that much of effect. That's a good sizable amount of money, I feel, to send back.
okay, Kelly?
1.5.
I've always been in favor of holding some. 200, 250 is more than fair number. And I understand, living in Sandown, and I understand the tax hike as well. However, I look at it from the other side. I know Donna's point to, they have to build extra money into a budget because you can't run it down to knowing exactly what every single thing's going to cost a couple of years out and then hit it on your market. That's nearly impossible. So they have to build in a little bit of a cushion so that they can operate efficiently and get things done properly. And then that's why you're left with a little bit left over, and that goes back to the town. And I think if we didn't hold any out and something did happen and we had to dip into that, what we budgeted for extra money, that's gonna cause other programs and other things to suffer because you're gonna have to pull that out of there and then hold back more in case something else happens. So ultimately, things will suffer. I know it happened a few years back when the fuel hike hit. There were lines that were cut off and budgets that were frozen because they were afraid of how much fuel was gonna cost. And we have to heat the buildings, and we have to have hot water for the kids, and we have to do things like that. So I don't wanna see that happen either, because that adversely affects the kids directly more than holding back the 200 or 250 would affect them. And if we don't need it, then we can always give it right back, which we've done in the past. So we can always pull it back out of there and put it back to help out with the taxes the following year. So I think it's a smart move to hold some back in the event something happens. It's not like it's going away, we're not spending it on anything, we're not, buying something fancy and not having anything to show for it.
Okay.
my feeling is that unlike a town where the town may or may not get some of the revenue that it anticipates, that the school district is going to get the revenue that it anticipates because the towns have to provide that regardless of whether or not the towns have that revenue. You've been running surpluses, and Mrs. Green, correct me if I'm wrong, up well over $1 million for the last several years and closer sometimes to $2 million. Well, I don't like to cut it close. I think that seeing that we already have a surplus of, that we're generally between $1 and $2 million of a surplus, I do think you're essentially holding money back. And given the fact that Danville is going to be looking at a large tax increase and the fact that these surpluses have been running so high, I would not be in favor of holding anything in the fund balance retention.
Okay. Something else you want to say before we take this to a vote?
Yeah, this has only been available since 2013.
Right.
The district's 50 years old. We've been managing all these years with far more modest surpluses than we're generating now. And we have a big fat wad of money in the capital reserve fund. So, you know, there's no need to be saving this money and penalizing our taxpayers in a year when they're gonna be really soft.
Well, okay. I don't think you have a big fat wad of money, but anyhow. And then my own thoughts are, I could personally go either way, because I look at 250, you spread it out by the 4 towns, that's just not a hell of a lot of money, you know, so. So to me, it's, we're gonna take this thing to a vote and see what this thing goes.
What about Dan? Dan didn't.
I thought you did.
No,
I
it's
thought you
all
were
right.
first one. I thought Yas called you first.
No.
I thought I sat over there, I'm sorry.
I do agree. 200, 250 spread over the 4 towns isn't a lot of money. Yeah, we've been fine for this long, but who's to say that, as Kelly said, fuel prices could go up, something catastrophic could go wrong, we could have a really bad winter. We don't know. 200, 250, I can go with that.
I'd also like to observe, and unfortunately, I don't have the numbers here in front of me, but I know that each of our towns have been able to retain a fund retention. And I know Plastow's is in excess, I believe Plastow's is in excess of 3 million. And I know that each of the other towns is at least $500,000 to $1 million. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, so I don't think us holding back
Well, yeah, there's
$200,000
recommended
or
amounts.
$250,000 is,
Yeah. The area always recommends a certain amount.
Yeah, they
well,
only
as they
allow
do for us.
Sure, as they do
And,
for us.
and we've been very responsible and keeping it down near zero.
No, there's no DRA recommendation to keep a fund balance retention for a school district. There is no DRA
There's a
recommendation.
maximum. There's no.
There's a maximum, there's no recommendation. And the reason for the town's recommendation is exactly as Dr. Farah said, because the revenue side in towns is uncertain, whereas we don't have a similar problem at the district. So that's the reason we're,
But our expense side is different. It's also significantly larger than any of the towns.
that's why we have management, and that's why we pay the management the big bucks.
Well, okay. I think we've appreciate the input, so,
There's a motion in a second.
Brian, could I
Please.
just say 2 comments, just on the conversation that we've just had on this? I just want to clarify 2 things. One is, there is never an intention to pad or have a cushion when we budget. When we budget, we do it with our estimates, the best, and I'm sorry if you think this is funny, Mrs. Green, because it's not.
I think it's untrue.
Well, no, it's
Okay.
not. We budget for what we need. We
Okay.
budget for an estimate. We look far 18 months ahead of time.
22
And when we do that, we do come up with a cost. We go through the year of whatever those anticipated expenditures are. And for most of the time, we do very well with staying right to the budget. And when you come out with either 1% to 2% of this, $70 million budget, you are pretty good in terms of managing it.
Yeah.
It'd be like taking your household budget and coming up with 1% at the end of 18 months. So I just want to clarify that. There seems to be a notion that we are intentionally putting a surplus in. we are not. The second thing I just want to mention is that, you know, as I think about the process that went through last year, we filed that MS-25 within the guidelines for the State Department of Ed. So we have met that obligation and requirement, and we will continue to do that going forward. So I just want to make sure that that's also clear. Chairman?
Okay. Go ahead.
I'd like to respond to that. The salary line, which is the most predictable of all of our expenses, typically has $500,000 in surplus. Because we're budgeting for vacant positions, which is padding.
I don't call it padding, but, Kim, go ahead, did you want to say something? Did you want
I'm
to?
sorry, well, I just wanna go back to I don't wanna harp on the MS-25, but the MS-25 will not be in on time unless there's another meeting where school board signatures can be obtained.
You could come in to sign it.
To
though.
sign it,
You
yeah,
know, you
they
could
could
be
just
called
ask.
in
And
to come
we've
and
done that
sign.
in the
Yeah,
past.
they've done that in the past.
You know,
Yeah, that's
depending
we have-
upon, you know, the auditors came here late this year, they've come in later than usual, but there's every attempt to get that in on time.
Again, there's no requirement that the numbers on that be audited prior to submission of the MS-25.
We'll
It
get
doesn't
in.
have to be the audited numbers on the MS-25, so.
That's
all I'm
something
saying.
that Jeff Dowd will have to respond to.
Okay,
a
could I, what is the, what's the motion on the floor?
Just hold nothing back.
Is that the motion on the floor?
The
Yes.
motion
Belcher?
was to contribute $0 to the fund balance retention fund made by Mrs. Green, seconded by Dr. Farah.
All those in favor of the motion on the floor? Opposed? 4-4, so motion fails.
Could I just need one side or the other side to give me put their hands back up. Those who were
We all just
opposed,
stuck our
let's
hands
go
up.
Those who opposed,
Put the
those
opposed
opposed,
up.
can I just see your hands? Yeah, so I can make that for the record.
4-4, so
Thank you very much.
motion fails. So, Dan,
I'd like to make a motion to put 250 into the unencumbered fund balance,
I'll second
or
that.
whatever, it's the reserve.
I'll second it.
okay. Motion for 250. All those in favor of the motion for 250? Okay. 4, opposed?
No, I thought, I was getting ready. I
4
was
opposed.
anticipating something else.
Okay.
It's the same, right?
Same?
It's just
Okay.
the
Now I gotta go.
reverse.
Let's try something else here.
Monty Hall,
There we
let's
go.
make a deal.
This is it.
This is it. I'd like to make a motion that we put 175,000 into the fund balance retention.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. All those in favor of the amended motion? Five opposed? Okay. Okay. So we will, on the subject matter, so we'll be dealing with Monday morning, so as soon as we get some information in terms of signatures to file this report, let us know, so if we either have to call a special meeting to do that, or if we just have
Oh, I'm sorry.
have people come in and sign.
It's usually
Perfect.
just been the chair.
Yep. Very good, thank you. CIP project schedule. This was put on the agenda so we can talk about CIP when we have the CIP chair with us here tonight, so we can talk about the CIP. Where do we go from here?
Okay, so I guess you got some documents tonight, but this CIP isn't complete.
Right.
We have a meeting scheduled, and we stopped meeting this summer, kind of at the request of, let's see where the strategic plan people could get going, and then we'd come back around when you guys were kind of ready. So we've got September 13th planned, the 27th of September planned, and the 11th of October planned to finish this. So what you're seeing here is really I don't know where you get this from, if this came from Mr. Dowd or what, but this is an incomplete work. The things that are yellowed, we hadn't even discussed yet. So, that's where we're at.
I think, well, the purpose tonight too is that we're trying to get a feel for the process in terms of,
So this is the process. We've agreed to this. We accepted the report. The board, and this was in October last year, kind of goes through what's a CIP and the justification and what our goals were and what a definition of a capital improvement is and how we annually prepared it. And the CIP committee had agreed that, I believe, that the chair or the committee, last year it was represented by myself, by one of the community members, happened to be John Sherman, and by Dennis Heffernan from the budget committee, from the school district, came and presented that to the school board when we had the documentation done. So we have all the requests in, but not all reviewed and finalized. So you can see all that stuff in red is still way, but the things that are yellowed, we haven't even discussed, because there's some things in that we need to discuss there where we'd even put those things, so that's where we're at, I think.
now, do we have to now get with the facilities people?
When we met this summer or spring, did we meet in the spring? What was the last meeting?
We met in the
We
summer.
met this summer.
Early in the summer.
Yep.
I thought Mr. Dowd had been doing a pretty good interface with the stakeholders, because it's a lot of facilities stuff, to try and, get those ones, because you add a new column each year where we're going with this. I don't have anything in my notes that says we were going to meet with the facilities director at our next meeting, but I thought we were gonna see if we could finish this beautiful spreadsheet, if I may say so myself. Beautiful spreadsheet.
Okay, please.
I just want to start by commending Sue Sherman and John Sherman for their work on the CIP and how easy it is going to be moving forward to get this rolled out in terms of we can kind of see now in the future. Really, what we want to discuss here is the idea that items are put onto the CIP, and they were brought by various administrators.
And they were put in the year, we only changed a few years, right? You're saying,
Right,
yeah, the
so
stakeholders said where they wanted them.
the stakeholders said where they wanted them, but the stakeholders have a vested interest in their particular
course.
project. So the question mark becomes then, who is the final say as to what's gonna get funded in year one? Does it go back to facilities for a final review? Does it go back to SLT? Or does it come to the school board?
I think it went to the budget committee too.
Well, it goes to the school board,
Yeah,
and then it goes to the budget committee.
then the budget committee looked at it, and like last year, they knocked off some things that they didn't want, they didn't wanna fund. Tennis courts, I'll use that as the only example off the top of my head. Remember, they took those off. So if they came off the CIP, they never come off the CIP, they just get pushed over to, are you not interested in tennis courts anymore? Or are we putting them in as a possibility for next year, right?
Well, again, I guess it's a question of somebody should make the decision as to whether or not.
Higher level than us, though, higher level
Well,
than the CIP committee.
Correct, and this is the question that we're trying to get the answer to tonight, to figure out what is that next step? We have a tremendous CIP here, we can see it flowing out for several years, we have big question marks, and we need to know who is going to, before we get to budget season, look at year one, and say,
This is gonna be into the next budget.
this really should, and that's why I asked you to stay. It would seem to me that SLT or the business operations department needs to take a look after.
Yeah, I presented it to SLT. I did that whole show to SLT to Budget Committee and to the school board last year, all the same information when we had it in some kind of a format, all thrown together and,
So we had SLT, the school board, and the budget committee. So who had the final say?
I believe it was Budget Committee that made the final cuts.
It's the budget committee.
They made the final cuts, 'cause it's,
That's who did it, but is
No.
that the group that should be doing it? That's the question.
Oh, wow.
And we don't have a process for who should be doing it and a flow chart as to where it goes.
so you want the process of where it goes after the CIP?
Correct, yeah.
After all the work we did, where it goes next, goes from the CIP committee to, you wanna know where it would go next, and that flow chart.
Right.
I'd like to have a chance to talk to the committee about that and get some input from the, from Mr. Dowd and Dave Gurns.
If I recall correctly, when you made your presentation, it's my recollection that Dr. Metzler was asked that question.
He was.
Right. And so what I don't know is whether or not anything necessarily came of that, as far as a flow chart, as far as.
Do you want me to explore that? I mean,
I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea. I just recall it being brought up, and I don't know whatever happened with that.
How about before our CIP meeting? Would I have permission? Well, I am the chairman, but would I have permission
There you go.
from the rest of the board to discuss that with, I would say with Jeff, with Mr. Dowd, with probably Mr. Gary, and Earl, to see how they want to. No, yes?
I agree with that. I think we need the process and the timeline, because we know what the CIP timeline is. You know
Correct.
what's happening September, October. There's now another step that has to happen, and then it goes to the school board.
Right.
As we take a more active
But
role in the budget process, then it goes to the budget committee. So
Someplace
there's a
in here.
piece in between
Yeah,
that
we
needs to
tried to
happen.
create a flow chart, I tried to do that, and we kind of discussed it amongst us, amongst the committee, but not in a larger frame.
Right, and I think maybe that probably needs to happen here
Okay.
as the CIP gears up in early, mid-September, so that, as thinking budget season, that next piece happens, and then it comes back to the school board in the final form.
Didn't your husband create one?
He did, and we banged it around a little bit, chatted about it.
Yeah, I remember him
and
mentioning that
He
in the
had
meeting,
little
yeah.
boxes and arrows and,
Yeah, but I don't think we
Circles.
we didn't really have much of a discussion.
no, we didn't that particular night.
At our
Yes,
committee,
yeah.
and then also it's important for the school board to then
Right.
have that discussion before it's finalized. And then I would think that we would ultimately want to put it into the CIP handbook, so it becomes a
Yes,
process.
part of the, right, and that is online, and, the document that you've got in your hand, I mean, is a constant, we've talked with it, it's a fluid document, it continues to flow here, and names and faces are gonna change, but I think our preparation, the committee's preparation hasn't changed at this point, but an addendum to, okay, what happens next? What's the flow chart? What's the process after we are done? I mean, we met a lot, and Donna made reference to that, how much work we did last year, and how many nights we were here, many, many nights to get it going. And I think it's easier maybe this year, and maybe even easier next year, if we have a process, a flow chart, and some discussion with the next levels up here, with Jeff, with Tom, with Earl, with
I think that's an
Roxanne.
excellent idea in terms of making sure that, we can have that conversation with you in terms of that process. Often we see, we're not quite sure ourselves what goes to facilities, what goes to CIP, and.
There's there's
so-
overlap,
Yeah.
there's redundancies, I guess that's the word, and I think that's kinda good. I want the people who run facilities, who's the chairman of facilities? Danny, to, be on board here so he knows where these pieces are all fitting together when they have their meeting. And I'd be happy to do some exploration if you want me to, but like I say, the committee's not meeting till the 13th of September.
Okay, this is great.
So the CIP is a very good beginning, but it has an unlimited bottom line. As you know, all the department heads gave us their requests, and they were just distributed between year 1, 2, and so on. And,
you know, then we came to the end and said, oh my gosh, you know, what is it? 1.6 million going up to 12 million, you know, I mean, it's just, it's without the discipline of a bottom line, and it's not a criticism, because, what we have asked is for everybody to tell us what they want. And then we've sort of filtered it by our, you know, crude grasp of urgency. And then we say, okay, it's come to 1.6 million this year, and we've deferred out a lot of other stuff. And so the thing is, it's a very good start. We know what people want. We've made the point that it's sort of directionless without a strategic plan, and we all recognize that. But it seems to me that the step after CIP is the school board, and we should be reviewing these items and saying, does, you know, $20,000 for fiber connections between the school, does that abide with our long-term technology plan, and, which, you know, it does. So is that a reasonable investment at this time? I think these are all decisions. Each individual item is a decision for the school board. And then and perhaps even within the constraint of a bottom line, maybe we want to decide amongst ourselves that we want to invest $2 million every year in facilities upgrades. Maybe that's a goal that we want to agree upon ourselves, and then amongst ourselves, and then we can fit the CIP projects in within that budget. But to me, it should go from CIP to the school board, because the CIP is a very democratic process, because we've asked all of the department heads to give us their feedback about what their wish list is, what they would like to see, short-term and long-term. We eventually are gonna have a strategic plan that's gonna guide us to some extent. But until that time, I think the buck has to stop here, and the school board has to go through this list and say, yes, this is a reasonable expense in this coming budget year, and then make those recommendations to the budget committee.
Without I agree with some of the things you're saying, Donna, if I could, Brian.
Go ahead.
So, but without the stakeholder here to tell you about why they think they need, we'll use fiber optics, why they believe it fits into the technology plan, I believe we would need to have the stakeholders here too. Not me doing it like I did last year. I did all that. I made this little chart of summary. That was a lot of work.
And we should have the benefit of that at the school board level, because I don't think we need the stakeholders here. You've already done that.
You think I could do that?
Yes, based on what they've presented to the CIP. The reason it gets in the CIP is because they present that kind of rationale. And if they don't, then they have the risk of us at the school board not having the proper information to make a decision.
I mean,
That would improve the discipline of the CIP process.
There are 4 of us from the school board on the committee, who could, I hope, speak unbiasedly about the, you know, information that we were given about the cost or the life expectancy or something, and be able to speak intelligently about what we learned about each of the projects. So then it would go from school board to
Budget committee.
then to budget.
Kim?
I don't disagree with you, Donna. I feel, though, that it needs to have another look before it comes to the school board by facilities/SLT or somebody, because they're the people that are on the ground full-time, looking at facilities. Something that you may have thought could go to 18-19 might need to be moved forward.
Right.
Something that needs, you know, so I don't disagree that the school board ultimately needs to look, and maybe we do set a figure of $2 million a year approximately for the next couple of years, but I think there should be another step before it comes to the school board. And me personally, if I were a stakeholder and my project was on here and the school board was meeting to discuss it, I would be here.
I would too.
I mean, that's their call, but if it were me, I would be here.
Because I'd want to be able to
Answer
fill-
questions.
answer questions, give you my expertise about the topic, make you understand why it would be
Okay.
a good idea to invest in this now and not
Right.
defer it, or to defer it.
Right.
Right.
At least give them that option. I gotta
And
agree.
have the context.
Yeah,
Yeah.
again, it was like when we were doing the numbers here, out of context, it's like so difficult to decide.
Okay, so,
Where are we here?
there you go.
So it's going back to CIP to have a discussion about
Yeah.
how the flow chart's gonna work.
Yeah.
I know we have a meeting on the 13th. Do you think it's gonna take more than one meeting to hash that out?
I don't know, because my goal was to get it to you guys by October, mid-October at the latest. I think we did the 16th of October, and that, I was hoping we'd get here earlier this year. I think Jeff was too.
What were the meeting dates again?
13th, 27th, and 11th, and October 11 were the 3 dates we had picked,
And when are our
7 o'clock.
No, I'm thinking about when our school board meeting falls
how's
in
it fall?
relation to that.
Is there one the next
Put it down.
night, the 14th?
There is one the 14th, so if
I
you,
might have something to tell you. We
Oh, there's a
have
19th, what
something.
do you mean?
7th and 14th, we meet the school board, don't we?
No.
Yeah.
No, this is,
21st.
14th is
20.
budget.
7th and 21st for school board.
7th and 21st.
okay, so maybe for the 21st.
Maybe we have something to say.
Even if it's
then
not,
maybe an update.
I'll give you an update. Update the update.
it's fine. Okay,
even if it's not a formally written out something, at least that maybe the board can come to consensus, this is how we'd like to move it forward for this
And I
year.
like my co-chair there, Jeff has certainly invested a lot of his time over the past year in this, so he knows it pretty well. Okay, I'll do my best, gang,
Super.
that's all I can do.
all right, so before we go into the next topic, I'd like to, I wanna, could you just do the minutes approval? I'll be right back.
Okay.
Approve the minutes.
Brian's stepping out for a minute, and I will take over, and we'll go back in the agenda and take a look at the minutes. So, let's take a look at the August 10th, 2017 public minutes first,
The regular meeting minutes?
the regular
Wait,
meeting.
wait. What did I do with them? Regular minutes.
Yeah.
This is August 10th?
Move to accept the August 10th minutes.
Second.
Okay, I
Discussion.
have a question about them. Under other business, it said, Chairman Boyle directed that the other business segment of the board meeting will be used for board members to request future agenda items only. Preference is that these items be forwarded to him in advance of the meeting. I didn't, I questioned that. I didn't hear, Chairman Boyle directed that the other business segment of the board meeting will be used for board members to request future agenda items only. I did not hear that only. Is that correct, Mr. Boyle?
We're on the public minutes, page 3 of 4.
I think that's actually not correct. Did I?
That's what I heard.
That's what I heard.
Yes,
That's what I heard, kiddo.
Only?
Yeah,
yes,
so we weren't gonna have another meeting in the
Yes.
meeting.
that's
So-
correct.
There's, okay, that's. Wow.
Are there any other discussion related to the August 10th regular board meeting minutes? If not, I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor of approval?
Got it.
Opposed? Abstaining? You want to take that over? Or on the non-public?
Non-public. Non-public minutes, huh? Yeah, non-public minutes. Okay, here we go, non-public session.
Move to accept the non-public session meeting minutes of August 10th.
Second.
You can pick the second you want there, guy. That was kind of a tie, yeah.
I got Peter.
All
Is
right.
that okay?
Okay.
I didn't hear the other one.
Good by me.
Okay. Hearing no comments, all those in favor of the non-public meetings? Minutes, I'm sorry. Opposed? Abstention? One abstention. Thank you. Would you pass this down to us? Mr. Lavoy, you have our blessing if you would like to, you're welcome to stay, but if you would like to go home and.
I'll probably stay for the next, the next
Okay.
part of the agenda.
Well, yeah, okay, that's fine, all right.
Thank you.
Right, you're more than welcome. Okay, next topic of the agenda here, I put on the agenda personally here, conflict of interest. This is the school board gets a questionnaire every year from the accountants. And myself being the chair, when I read the questionnaire, I felt I wanted to have the full input of the board. This topic is, I hope nobody takes this topic personally. I am unaware of anything that's been done at Timberlane that's been unethical. There's been no fraud. There's a whole question here about the accounts, or what they ask about, if you know about fraud or this kind of stuff. There is no fraud that I'm aware of. But as I was reading, well, I will read the question aloud. And first, if you remember what I said when this meeting started, there's 9 members of the Timberlane School Board. There are several members of the board that have been elected to multiple terms, so everyone is here serving their constituents, and I believe everyone's here for the right reason. I am unaware of any person who is here for the wrong reason. But every year, with a different board, there might be different views on different things, and how the Timberlane School Board conducts its business. So let me read this aloud here. This is from the firm of Blodzik and Sanderson. Has the board adopted a universal code of ethics for members and employees to follow? It's a yes or no question. The answer is yes. If yes, does this document prohibit elected officials and employees from doing business with the entity? Yes or no? The answer is no. Our current policies, some of us have signed statements about code of ethics as a school board member, and there's also a school board member policy. Let me pull this out here. And again, there are 0 violations that I'm aware of on this topic here. But essentially what it asks is, does this document prohibit elected officials and employees from doing business with the district? It doesn't. It asks you to refrain, but there's a big difference in the verb refrain and prohibit. And it goes down to ask questions. Have you or any related party of yours has an interest, direct or indirect, in the following transactions in the previous school year? Sale, purchase of property, leasing property, receiving, furnishing of goods, services, or facilities, transfer, receipt of income or assets, maintenance of bank balances as compensating balances for the benefit of holding of another. In other words, this is just this questionnaire is a standard questionnaire by auditors. And I believe their intent is looking for independence of a public official. Myself and Dr. Farr, we're both former selectmen, and in the state of New Hampshire, there are rules for selectmen, that prohibit certain actions, but those do not exist for people who serve the public as a member of a school board. For example, as a selectman, I cannot, if I was a selectman, I cannot do business, even if I wanted to, even with the blessing of the board, you cannot do business with your town. That does not, that's by state statute. That process does not exist for school districts in the state of New Hampshire. So as I received the questionnaire from last year's chair, and it was pretty much, I agree with your statements. It was just, it's a questionnaire you fill out, and there'll be different people on this board that will be willing to serve the public. I myself, I have a different view, much like we all had a different view about 2 votes that go on the fund balance. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the owner of a construction company. I know there's going to be a lot of work coming up in the district. I have no intention of bidding or not bidding on this work, because this is how I have chosen to serve my community. Again, this is not a requirement. This is something that I'm taking on myself. Now, I just asked the board, or I am asking the board, just for some guidance on this questionnaire, because we do have a code of ethics. There is no violation, but if it's at such a level that the board would like the policy committee in the future to explore or something of that, Mr. Belo.
Couple comments or questions, really. Well, first a comment. I don't know, good question. If I might ask Mrs. Belcher, what people on this board have not signed the ethics statement? You have copies, I believe, correct?
I do. How many people on this board have violated some of the?
Excuse me, I think I have the floor.
Well, here's what I want to do.
No, I mean,
what
we're
I'd like to
talking
do-
about an ethics thing,
Okay,
Brian.
okay.
And if there are people who refuse to sign the ethics statement, I'm not quite sure why I'm interested in their opinion on any ethical thing.
Well, here's what I'd like you. here's
Can
what
I
here-
have my question answered?
But you can, but just, if you just would allow me one. And this topic, as we can all imagine, has the ability that can get hostile, and we're not gonna let it get hostile here tonight.
Okay.
We're gonna let reasonable people have a conversation here. That's my goal in the next 15 to 20 minutes. So we're not gonna stay here till midnight to debate this. Because again, I wanna be crystal clear here, there's been 0 violation of anyone's ethics, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
You know, everything that's been done above board, and everything that's been done to date has been done in accordance with Timberlane policy. So, with that, I'll yield the floor back to you, sir. You have a question for Mrs. Belcher?
I asked a question, yes.
I don't think you want to do it, that's up, he's asking you who assigned this thing, and I guess there are board members on here that haven't signed this.
I would like to jump in here. I haven't signed it because I actually thought I signed it, and apparently I haven't. So I have it right here, so I will sign it right now. I have no issue with signing it. I actually thought I already signed it. So in
Fair
terms
enough.
of myself, I'm at fault because I really thought I signed it. So here it goes. I have no problem with it. So I will be happy to speak about my feelings on the ethical nature of certain
Okay,
things.
But now, I
Wait a
can
minute,
jump
Mister,
in.
are you through your question there, Peter, or what?
Is that the only person who didn't sign?
No. Well,
Excuse me.
I'm another person who didn't sign. Isn't that what you're getting at, Mr. Belo?
I was just asking for
And I would like
names.
to say why I wouldn't sign it.
I have no
Because it
interest in why.
says- Well, you're gonna hear it now, because it
We're
says.
gonna be polite now, okay, here we go.
Take no private action that will compromise the board's actions or decisions, and respect and support such actions and decisions as made by the majority vote or consensus of the board. I'm an elected official, and I'm under no requirement whatsoever to respect majority vote or consensus of the board, and I'm not going to sign that. And I might say that for a long time, this board had a policy that was in direct violation of this school board member ethics, specifically encouraged the free expression of opinion by all board members.
Well,
So
okay.
that
What-
doesn't hold with this board, but in previous boards it certainly did.
Okay. Well, any rate, I just wanted to get some feedback here, because, I mean, I can easily fill this thing up, but to me, it's the type of thing that, it's addressed to the, well, it's actually, I had Mrs. Belcher send it to all you people to get some feedback, and I get some feedback, but not across the board, but that's fine. So,
Well, I would like to, I think the school board ethics needs to be revised, because I think it violates First Amendment
well,
principles and all kinds of things.
If-
And it doesn't prohibit things that ought to be prohibited, such as self-dealing.
okay, and if that's the conclusion, if the stuff gets sent off to the policy,
So it's a procedure, so
Proceed.
it's not a policy.
Well, that's another problem.
what do you mean, some
Well,
policy?
no, there's a policy on conflict of interest.
I know, but she's talking about the ethics thing, that's a procedure, she said she thinks that needs to be redone. It hasn't been redone since 13.
So why on earth should we be signing a procedure that we have nothing to do with drafting?
Sue, how long have you been on the board, Sue? Have you been on the board since 13? You been on the board back then?
Yes, I was on that particular date I was.
Okay. Was it a
See, I
good?
retired in
Was
June,
it-
yes, I was.
Okay, all right.
Sent Brian along to 8th grade, and
So
here we are.
these procedures, we just dealt with the school board, or that didn't go through policy committees? When a procedure like this?
I don't know, I don't.
I can answer that.
Oh,
I'm-
please.
but
Procedures don't go
Peter's
through
the
policy.
dean.
Right, it
Procedures
went,
don't.
the school board as a whole reviewed them.
Okay,
The last time I cannot recall the exact year, but I can tell you that Mr. Barzak was on the committee at the time, from Danville,
Sandown.
Sandown.
don't know.
So it was before 2013 and sometime after, I don't know, 2008.
Yeah, it says adopted and then revised, so.
Okay,
Yeah,
so,
it must have been, yeah, well,
But he was on in 2012.
okay, so you have two, you have a procedure, the school board member's procedure, and then you also have a policy,
Does it refer to?
which hasn't been, that policy was 7 years ago, so that was adopted in 1983 and last revised in 2010, so. Jim?
My personal feeling on this is that, as with selectmen, I don't feel that a school board member should be conducting business with the district. Because in my mind, there's a perception, if not an actuality, that there is a conflict of interest. And I personally don't think that board members should open themselves up for that sort of question or questionable sorts of practice. So I would like this policy revisited.
Okay. Peter?
I believe there's a problem with that. As I looked through the RSAs earlier this week, on my long ride back from Missouri.
Go look.
Anyhow, I found, and I didn't print it out to bring it with me, but there is an RSA on conflicts of interest for municipal boards, for town, village, city, and unincorporated areas boards, that allow those boards to redefine what a conflict of interest is. But the way the RSAs work, if it doesn't if you're not, if a lower level organization isn't explicitly given the right to do something, they don't have the right to do something. And that did not say anything about a school board or SAU being allowed to do that. So I think we just have to go by the state definition, which is pretty much what's here in our policy. I don't think we can legally change what we define as a conflict
Well, you
for
can.
a school board.
I think you can, but I think there's, as I said earlier, there is no, right now, there is clearly
There's
no
no
conflict.
violations.
There's no violation.
Right.
There is no
So but we can't redefine what conflict means.
Because I want,
Did you want to be able to put something on the questionnaire? Yes,
Right,
or you wanted
yeah, I
something
want to,
for-
yeah, I'm filling up the questionnaire, and I
yeah.
think it makes sense to, on the by the board here. Mrs. Green?
We can put whatever we want in our policy.
Oh, I understand that.
Mr. Belo's argument is absurd.
Well, it's, okay,
I meant and have it enforceable.
okay. Any rate, I'm just gonna get a, okay,
Could I see the question again?
Yeah, read the,
Because it's the,
basically, have we adopted policies?
we have a policy, we have a procedure.
we have a policy, so the question is, and I think the answer to this is no. So, has the board adopted a universal code of ethics for members and employees to follow? That answer is yes.
Yes.
If yes, does this document prohibit elected officials and employees from doing business with the entity?
It does
That
not.
answer is no.
No, right.
Correct.
So, it seems to me that the expectation of the auditors would be that that answer would have been yes. And then if we answer that question no, that the auditors will probably come back with some sort of, as I've seen them do with the town, some sort of statement in regards to that. I don't know. I mean,
So you think if we answer it no, you're gonna get some.
Well, I'm not sure,
Oh,
the bottom line is,
the other way around.
you're,
I don't know.
You're
I
getting-
mean, I think we just answer the question,
obviously, the question can be answered honestly,
Honestly.
but the fact of the matter is, the reason it's, if you look at this, it's a question from an auditor, so,
Is it specifically about a school district? I can't remember, or is that just about?
no, this is just their,
Their form.
the client, yeah,
It's
this,
their-
it's
that
their
goes to
form.
every
it
single
says
town.
board member.
Well, it's,
lives in
yeah,
it.
but
Oh,
it's,
could
but
be a
it's a
select
form,
board.
and
Could be a
it,
select
but it
board.
says, yeah, well, it says two members of the school board, so this is how they've addressed it. But I believe, you know, it's part of their, when you engage this firm, I'm sure as well as other firms, they're trying to get a lay of the land here, so they're asking questions. Have you received any communication from employees, alleging fraud? Well, I haven't heard anything about fraud, so, no. It's a questionnaire.
I understand.
So, you've seen it. I believe, if this was a clearly non-issue to anything, the question wouldn't even be on here.
If it was an issue, then when I answered the way I did last year, okay, saying that one school board member did business with the district, and here's how much
Yep.
remuneration was from that, then they would have had a finding against us, or they would have asked us more questions, but they didn't care. There was no response at
Well,
all
they
from
didn't
them.
respond on that.
So I don't believe it's an issue. I have no information, there's no
Well-
data on the table to show that's an issue.
Okay.
And the only data we have shows it's not an issue because they didn't have any kind of comment or response last year.
My allegiance is not, quite frankly, to this firm. We're all here representing our constituents.
Well, but
So,
you're-
for that's why I'm here. And as far as I'm concerned, and just because this came up in this questionnaire, that's why I put this on the agenda for tonight. Because the worst case, well, bad choice of words, but the only action is if the board want to take an action, is to have it be reviewed. But there's no vote going to happen here tonight on this. So I'm just looking for, and which I'm already receiving from some of the board, you know, because it's, I don't know what happened in Danville, but what happens lots of times, stuff like this, it becomes, the interpretation it drops down to the individual, which is not the way you should look at it, because if all of a sudden you like that person, they're doing a fantastic job, you're losing sight of a process. Like, I don't believe would make sense if Boyle Construction, 3 years from now, signed a contract for $20 million to remodel the middle school.
But it wouldn't be in conflict with this particular policy if in fact you did, right, Brian?
It would not be. I would have to step off the board.
Right, which was done.
Yeah. Everything's been done
Yeah,
legit. So, but that's all I'm saying. So, see, to me, it's that, you know, and this is a $70 million organization. So, when someone does lots of these trades guys, and I'm sure the person who's done work in the district is probably no exception to this. Most of the small business people around here, they do stuff for probably 70 or 80 cents on the dollar. They're not really making money. They're not, they're, I get it. They're, for the most part, they're usually providing a service. They're trying to give it. So, and when it's a small amount, nothing, there's nothing can happen. So if it gets to be thousands and thousands of dollars routinely, something can happen. That's all I bring up. So if the board has really no issues with it, then
I just have a quick question. Do we have a staff member conflict of interest? We have one for the board members, but I'm wondering if
There
there's
are
one for.
Yeah, there's
employees.
policies, yeah.
Ethics.
Yeah, there's
Ethics
impo-
for staff.
Yeah.
Right, but is there one with the same verbiage as this here with respect to
There is,
board members?
well, when I reviewed the employee policy, it's the same, it's very similar verbiage. It says something like not refrain from using your position, and it's not in bold and prohibit, and if you do this, this is gonna happen. It's kind of, it's definitely
Right.
worded, so it's pretty much self-policing.
Yeah.
And which is pretty much what's happened historically here. So, and last year, there was a bid, and person stepped off a board, and it was done all legit, all
Right.
above, all proper. Yeah.
Well, what I would like to see is that policy committee takes a look at this policy. Before they do that, I would like to see what the New Hampshire School Board Association's model policy looks like for this particular policy, because that might shed some light as to how
New Hampshire
That
School Boards
association
help you guys,
feels
right? Yeah.
on this. And it has not been revised for 7 years, so it seems like it would be a good idea to take a look at this policy.
Okay.
And as I said, I was rather surprised by this, because as a former selectman, this could not have happened.
Yeah, it's different.
It's
It
a
is different, and
It's
that's-
different.
and I
So
didn't-
That's,
Actually, it was funny, because you probably don't remember this, Sue, but it was actually the other one that pointed out different things to me years ago about this, and I was sitting as a selectman, and people said, hey, you should get on the school board, and I went, what are you talking about? I can't go on the school board, my daughter works there. And the other one said, well, okay, you don't have your facts right, which I just, of course, I wasn't really exactly looking to get on the school board anyways. That was a good out for me, but at any rate.
But you can't be both things at the same time. You can't be in this Board of Selectmen.
Well, no, I was
I
no
know.
longer, I was always under the,
Gotcha.
because they have similar duties.
Yeah.
A selectman in New Hampshire, has similar duties to a school board member. So, but it's interesting how the state laws are not identical.
Yeah, and they probably should be, but I'm not, frankly, I'm not that comfortable deferring to the New Hampshire School Boards Association model language on ethics. We should be setting our own ethics.
I'm not
Not
saying
ethics,
defer.
the conflict of interest policy.
And conflict of interest.
I'm not saying defer, I'm saying take a look at it.
Yeah.
Well, do we have an issue here, or don't we? Do we want to prohibit self-dealing, because that's what it is? It's known as self-dealing.
I don't want to take any action, personally.
There's zero
I
violations.
don't want to take any action until it's further vetted, quite honestly. I think Kim's got a good suggestion there, but I was trying to get, quite frankly, the flavor of the board here, so.
Well, my opinion is we should prohibit self-dealing. We should prohibit, and that would go a long way in, and also prohibit elected officials from taking jobs with the SAU or a district within a year of their public service. I think that's not enforceable, but I
Well,
think we should
okay.
put it in here as an expectation.
Well, if that's, okay, and if that wasn't the purpose
Right.
of this topic this evening. The purpose is, I was looking for my board to help me to get the, what's going on here, so I can adequately fill out this questionnaire. And then I do think that policy committee should, I'd like to see what other districts are doing, and probably the state, it's probably a good place to start, so. Anyhow, Mrs. Sherman.
So, Brian, my flavor is, thank you for continuing to say that it's been 0 violations of our ethics policy and 0 violations of this conflict of interest, 0 ethics procedure and 0 conflict of interest procedure. And I was frankly quite interested in seeing the questions that the accountants asked. I had never seen those before, so I appreciated those coming across electronically so we could take a look at them. I didn't feel that I could adequately answer those. Those are some pretty intricate questions that you then have to come back and get some help from the business manager. Those are tough questions, so I appreciate that. But I'm okay about this going, take a look, policy, I agree with Kim. I think the New Hampshire school boards are our source for the correct template. Let's see what they have. But again, there are 0 violations of both pieces of paper. I'd like to end the discussion if we could move on.
Chairman Beagle, I have a question. Oh,
Chairman Beal, geez,
oh, excuse me.
it's okay.
You should be so lucky.
Excuse me. I did submit a response to this. Will my response be submitted to the auditor?
Your response, I'll be happy to talk to you, your response as written, I can't prevent you from doing it, but I gave you my suggestions, and I think I'd prefer to talk to you about that personally than the world between Brian Boyle and Donna Green.
Okay, thank
You
you.
know, but
Can I just add one thing? One of the things that we find, and I've seen this in other districts as well, is when we look at these board member conflict of interest policies, it's really also about what we do as procedures. And any time I have seen, and I've seen it here and I've seen it in other districts, it's what you do if there's a perceived, not necessarily a conflict of interest, because that connotes that, you're doing it kind of not with transparency. And to me, that's the issue. It's about transparency. If there is going to be something that might be considered a conflict of interest, the board is notified. It doesn't mean that you are prohibited from doing that action, but the board is notified. The board has some ability to voice whether they feel it's a conflict of interest. And that's what I think this policy or procedure needs to be able to not be so harsh that it prohibits everything, because there might be a situation, and I can't really think of the situation right now, but there might be a situation where it benefits the board and the district. So just keep that in mind.
Sure. Well, I'm sure it would, well, there's more than one school district in the state, so let's see what's going on in the rest of the state. So, all righty, thank you very much, and thank you very much for the tone. Administrators report. Who's going to have the pleasure of doing it?
I have a couple of items here. One is, we received a $1,000 donation from Southern New Hampshire University. It's the 5th Annual College Fair, September 11th and 12th. And they are generously donating, as they have in the past, to help sponsor the fair. This year's donation will help defray the following fair expenses: table and chairs. If you've ever been, it's phenomenal in terms of how big this is. 2-day of rental of tablecloth, postcards, invitation, gifts for the college reps. Usually they give them little chocolate owls. Oh, I shouldn't probably say that publicly, but, because they are gifts.
We could do tigers.
Yeah. Hospitality, breakfast for the reps for 2 days, and water. And so we would like to have the board take action on that. And then the last is, we did receive a donation from TD Bank North. We did accept it on behalf of the school district for the Project Hope Angel Fund, which helps community families in need who have serious illness. Don't need to take action on that because we've accepted that.
So you need action on the first one.
Donation from Southern New Hampshire University.
We have to take action to accept the donation?
Yes, you do.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All those in favor, accept the donation?
Thank you.
Unanimous.
Before you leave the top, I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, my question is, why don't we have to approve the second donation? Just
Lower than the
Oh, it's
threshold.
lower than the threshold, okay, thanks.
Before we leave the topic of the college fair, do you anticipate board members being invited again to attend that?
We haven't been yet.
You haven't been invited?
We hadn't passed, I know that.
I know we have in the past, but we have not been yet.
Okay, does she anticipate?
That does you do?
I would anticipate that.
You get some unfinished business or something, you wanna take some classes, or?
Actually, for a couple of years, my undergraduate alma mater attended, and I actually worked their booth as an alum. Had a great time doing it, too. Learned a lot.
And they acknowledge you as an alum?
Scary, isn't it?
All right, that's good. All right,
It's an amazing world.
all right, okay. Is that it for the,
That's my report. Getting ready for the opening, as you know. We had a great turnout for our mentoring program. And the 52 people who showed up, and that wasn't everyone that was available, but had a great 3 days of getting to know what Timberlane is all about. Wonderful folks. We're very excited about the passion they bring and the content. We have some very experienced staff, as long as some new folks joining us. So that's gone very well. So just wanted to let you know about getting ready.
okay. Get the personnel report so we can, I'm sorry.
I just want to say, with respect to the administrators' reports, that, and I appreciate Dr. Wilson's effort to stand in this evening, but generally, Dr. Metzler has not been giving us an administrator's report, and I would like to bring that to the board's attention, because I see press releases going out about information that should have been told to the board. I don't like learning about things through press releases, and the administrator's report is a perfect opportunity to inform the board of what is coming up, and I would like you, Mr. Chairman, to encourage Dr. Metzler to take the administrator's report as a serious opportunity to keep the board up to date and not surprise us with press releases.
I'll be happy to, and as a matter of fact, I found out that Timberlane was in the paper today, which I didn't know anything about. Did you, I don't know if anyone else knew, but there was a general conversation about budgeting, and I talked,
I haven't seen,
What paper is that?
the Tribune, from what I heard. Do you know anything about this, Ms. Belcher?
I believe that may have been just information that came from your board meeting when you talked about the transportation.
Oh, that thing, yeah.
I believe
That was from a board meeting.
Dr. Farah was cited
Yeah.
as
Okay.
comments in that article, and I believe that those were taken from the board meeting.
Vimeo.
Yeah.
I don't believe that there was a special, I don't believe there was a special opportunity where the press notified the district, other than the
Yeah.
right reports.
Okay, interesting.
So,
It was a very positive article, I guess, but it
I
just,
read it myself this morning. I didn't realize, it was news to me as well.
so,
Actually, if I might make an observation, I think the last couple articles in the Trib were based on,
Right.
started with either meetings or Facebook postings on a certain topic that kind of took off. The one the one before that, or maybe a couple, it may not have been just the last one, there was one they did on Project Lead the Way that I believe started as a conversation on Facebook, and I know I received a call from a reporter asking for some details, and they called other people as well.
okay. But I will talk to the superintendent. Dr. Wilson, you have also,
Personnel report?
yes.
Excuse me, I just wanted to interrupt, before we get to the personnel report, I just wanted to thank Brian for coming in tonight. I know he's got a lot of schools he's got to visit first thing in the morning, so I just
Nice.
wanted to thank you for coming in tonight, and have a good trip tomorrow. So you are officially excused. Not that I don't mean to be the person to do that, but I just want you to feel free to go.
And we'll be looking for his first report.
That's right.
The next meeting we have up early in the agenda.
Because these can go on for, quite some time. So, safe
Well-
travels.
Yeah, I'm not sure who, how you got that job, what they told you, but,
Don't worry, we'll
you get through that year.
we'll be getting you out early.
You're gonna
Don't
find
worry.
college
Full
real easy.
report
Once you
every
get through a
time.
year,
Yeah.
once you get through a year of school board, there's nothing any school
Yeah,
can throw at you.
that's
You'll be
it.
fine.
So,
So, go ahead, Dr. Wilson.
good luck.
See you later.
Have a good trip.
Thank you. Your personnel report.
Mhm.
We have several actions here tonight. One is, we received a retirement for the end of the school year, so they
Way ahead.
got ahead got it done early. So that will require some action tonight. We also have a request for someone who would like to be released from her contract. She has accepted a position in another school, and we have, this is a tough time to be able to find people, but we think we have a pretty good plan in place, but it's not been enacted. So I would encourage you, if you are going to accept her resignation, to accept it upon the condition of suitable replacement, so that we have some time to get the suitable replacement in. Usually that's typically around 2 weeks, but we're working hard to get this person replaced so that we have very little transition time for these kids at the beginning of school. We're hoping to get someone in on Wednesday to start fresh with these kids and not have to have 2 different teachers for the next week or so. So.
How often does that happen?
It doesn't happen often, but it does happen. We've had this before. We also have another employee who we have put on our nomination list from another district, who is being held to his contract for a couple of weeks until they get a suitable replacement. And so, it's a courtesy that we give each other from other school districts in New Hampshire, especially when it comes time this close to the start of school. So, there is an expectation that, the contracts go both ways. Protects the employee, but it also protects us when it gets to these situations right before school starts. While we, express our I guess, reluctance to lose people, it does happen, and we don't want to hold people too long, but we also want to make sure that we're doing the right thing for our kids going forward. So the request there is to be released from a contract from the high school. And then you have 6 new employees that we have gone through the process, and it's been a very busy couple of weeks trying to get all of these people processed. So kudos to the HR department for getting these people processed for the beginning of school.
So can we take one at a time?
Sure.
Danny?
You want to
I'll
try?
make a motion to accept the first retirement.
And I'll second it, but I'd like to say with great respect, Mim Ryan has been a long-time member of this high school staff. She's brought some championships to the high school, field hockey, and wish her the best in her retirement.
Which isn't until the end of the year.
Right, she's got another whole year, maybe she can
Oh.
win one more.
There you go. Okay, motion made,
Second.
second by Kelly. All those in favor?
Thank you.
Unanimous.
And then I'll make the motion to release this particular person, Kathleen Smith, from her contract upon suitable replacement at the high
Second.
school.
Discussion?
Discussion?
Somebody second it?
Yes, I did.
Jan, second.
Yeah, I'm not in favor of releasing this teacher from the contract. It's come too late, and the children are going to be affected. And I understand that it's reciprocal, but it's too late in the year. For the reciprocity only works to the adult's advantage. It does not work for the students' advantages. And our job is to look out for the best interest of the students here. I think if she started with her class, she should finish with her class. That's it.
Well,
I'm not in favor of releasing this contract, especially with such a difficult position to fill.
well, I like the condition put on it, and I'm confident that they'll find the right person. So you have a condition on it, so.
But do you understand the condition is gonna affect the classroom? Because there's gonna be 2 weeks, possibly 3, where the children don't have their regular classroom teacher at a high school math. Our math scores are low enough already.
Oh, they'll have
I-
her
We have a good plan in place.
That's what I'm.
They said they were hoping to have somebody for Wednesday, or did you miss that part? They said Wednesday.
So,
There's no guarantee.
Right.
well, it's a condition, so, all right. Motion's on the floor. All those in favor? Opposed? Let's see.
Thank you.
Well, we get 7 for, 1 against.
And then I'll make a motion to accept 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 positions including that last one, other,
Second.
for nomination.
I have a question on one
I
of
have
them.
a question on this.
Question?
I don't know how to approach the question without, I don't wanna,
So we need
the
to-
second
Keep the name out of it.
candidate,
If you need to go into non-public, that's, you can do that.
I would like to request a non-public.
I'll second it.
Okay, let's go into non-public here for, you wanna wait, you wanna go through everything else? Come back to this?
Yeah, that's fine.
Let's do
Is
this.
that okay? We do this?
You don't have to do each, you can
Yeah.
do the group.
Let's,
And then, why don't you, can you do for number 4?
Can you do other? She's saying, do you wanna hold up all those 7 and get your questions answered? Maybe there's other people
I
that
do
have
have a question
questions.
on another one.
Yeah, so maybe we wanna hold and do all 7
After the
we've had the
non-public.
non-public.
Yeah, yeah.
That's fine.
okay.
So will we, can we hold, or do we have to start all over again?
Nope, we have a motion and a second, and we're just gonna table.
Table this and let's go through the rest of this meeting here so we can free up those who don't have to be here.
Pretty close.
Okay, personnel committee reports. Give us a committee report on our big powwow this Monday.
All right. The Strategic Planning Committee met on Monday. We did review the raw survey data, and we had some summary, though it's not complete. There were about 780 respondents on the survey. We talked, in general, what the overarching themes are, and feel that as we move forward, that the strategic plan will focus on 21st century learning opportunities and sustaining a focus on rigor in academics, facilities improvements, and promoting a positive culture and climate. So that's kind of our overarching themes that we garnered from the surveys. Our next meeting is on September 14th. That will be the planning session with Jay Voigt, that the school board approved funds for him to come and meet with the strategic planning committee to figure out how we will move forward from there. So it was a very productive meeting. Thanks to Dr. Wilson and Ken Henderson for summarizing some of the survey data. And I think we are very focused as we moved into our next meeting with Mr. Vogt. So we should be able to, make good use of the funds that were appropriated already. So, a question that came up a while ago was, are we looking at potentially thinking that we may be bonding here in this upcoming budget season? Our committee really has made a decision that we will not be looking for that. So we are not that far along in the process, just to let people know. This is, there will certainly not be any talk of a bond this year from our perspective on that committee. That's all I have.
The list of priorities from the survey, could you send them out to people?
This is just a draft of the minutes. I can just send,
that'd be
it
great.
wasn't priorities, it was just overarching things. I don't have a problem, once the minutes are drafted, I don't have a problem with sending them out to the board.
Yeah, well, those are the minutes. It's just,
Right,
it says
well,
notes, but
Well, I guess if we could just put draft over top, then let's send them
Whatever.
out to the rest of the board,
Yeah,
that's
I
fine.
just wanted
Yeah,
to,
that's
you know,
fine,
I just
yeah.
wanted to kind of be able to focus
Sure,
on those
sure.
thinking forward, that's all.
Right.
Okay.
And those are just the general, the hope is that Mr. Vogt will, when he goes out to the communities, that he will, and during our next meeting, will help facilitate how to approach asking the correct questions to garner the
Right.
information we need to focus those.
Sure.
And could I just say that it would be nice if the minutes always get circulated to the board for that? I mean, I wish all of the committees did that, but I'm particularly interested in what's happening at strategic committee. So,
It's not a problem.
they're posted.
We post them online.
I know they're posted, it's better to be distributed to the board.
Please
You
just
want-
post mine, don't send them to me.
You
Please
want
just
them-
post mine.
You want them, you've asked that before, to have the minutes
Yeah.
emailed directly to you and not have to go on the website and find each of the.
Because you
committee-
never know when they're posted.
I know.
Yeah.
You know,
I'll,
you gotta keep looking.
If board members are interested in these particular minutes, I'll be happy to forward them. I'll just keep it in my head that when the minutes come out. So anybody who
you, I
wants them,
appreciate that.
just send me an email and I'll make sure I send it forward.
I will also make sure I put the word draft
Yeah.
on them until we meet again, because obviously not everyone has met to vet all those, but that's fine.
Okay. There, any other committee reports?
Well, the policy committee didn't meet for lack of administrators.
Okay. I believe that one is scheduled for September 7th.
Mhm.
Okay. We already went over CIP committee stuff. It's going to wait till the school year starts for facilities, is that what happened?
Yeah, we have a meeting, 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks, we have a facilities meeting.
Same thing with wellness, they'll
So-
be going to.
Give me a second, it's on the calendar for the school. The 19th.
Yeah.
No, the 12th, I'm sorry.
The 12th,
12th at 10:15, yeah, same day as Kelly's, safety committee.
so safety and,
Yep.
yeah.
Did you see that thing, Kelly, about someone from Plastow had a concern about safety in the public school? Did you see that?
Nope.
I think it was it correspondence? Did you
No,
hear about that?
wasn't in correspondence.
It came to you and I thought you were gonna forward it to
Oh,
Kelly.
I'm sorry.
We'll forward it.
Okay, I'll get it to you now, sir.
I did not see it.
Okay, I will get it to you. It was a Plastow parent. So, okay, I will
I
get
sent it to you guys?
Yeah, someone sent, I'm sorry, I thought it was,
Oh, whatever.
yeah, I will make sure you get it.
Okay.
Okay. Okay,
Curriculum and assessment will be cranking up, and wellness, so we obviously didn't meet this summer, so I'll get you those dates. I didn't bring that stuff with me.
okay. Alrighty. So, did we, everyone has got their thing about the vendor and payroll registers? We'll be going into I've received one thing so far for other businesses, set up the next meeting.
What is that?
This, no.
Sandown,
Oh, it's, might be.
basically Sandown,
Still on this.
presentation and
Nope.
formalize, I guess, the Sandown bus
This is
stop
it
thing.
here.
I guess that was,
Oh, good.
I believe there was, yeah, I think there's a formal thing coming.
Dan has the correspondence.
Oh, good. I have some requests for other business.
Okay,
The New Hampshire School Boards Association has a whole raft of seminars, and I'd like the board to vote to allow us to attend. And I don't have the schedule with me, but there isn't a seminar before our next meeting, so if I could bring the schedule, or if some person from administration could bring the schedule, and then we could all.
Is it seminars or
decide.
trainings, Donna?
Yeah.
Trainings?
Well, there's seminars and,
Okay.
you know.
All right.
Because we have to vote to spend the money to send people to them. There's like a legal seminar and a budget seminar and things like that.
Okay.
And I'd like some follow-up on the batting cage, the final cost and the usage. We haven't been told what the final cost on that project was, so I'd like to know that. Also, I'd like to follow up on the non-public and talk about how we're gonna deal with consultants' fees and benefits going forward.
okay,
And I think we need to talk about the conflict of interest in the ethics policy as an agenda item so that we can take action for a vote to recommend it to the policy committee, or to take a vote as to what we want to instruct the policy committee to put in the policy. Because it can work both ways. The board can instruct the policy committee to include certain things in the policy. And I would recommend we take that route after a
Okay.
discussion.
okey-doke.
So that would be an action item?
Yeah,
I just wanna clarify.
right, and the consultant fees and benefits could be an action item, and the New Hampshire School Boards thing is an action item, and the batting cages is just informational.
Okay. All right. Okay. With that, we're gonna, our next meeting is going to be September 7th, and as soon as we hear the first of the week about the State Farm, we'll make sure if poll the board real quick if the signature's required.
Okay.
Sorry, just one thing on, right now on September 7th, we have the CIP schedule as tentative. I'm assuming we want to bump that to the 21st, because you won't have a meeting
No,
before.
no, you won't be, so it would have to be, you mean on the
I'm just looking at the.
back burner?
Yeah, I'm just looking
Yeah,
at
I hadn't
the-
looked at that yet. Yeah, we won't be ready then to give you
Okay,
that
so
stuff,
we'll push that down to the 21st.
at least. Hopefully no longer than, let's put it there for now.
Yeah.
And then we can,
We haven't, unless I missed something, we haven't voted in these other hires, have we?
That's what we're going to non-public about.
We're gonna,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay, I think having all business done, so I will entertain a motion to go into non-public.
I thought we already did that, didn't we?
No, we have to go to non-public, discuss that hire.
And was it seconded, did you second that? I can't remember.
I did, but
Lucy Sherman?
I had seconded going into non-public. Whoever,
Under reputation, correct, Dr. Farah?
Yes,
Yep.
repetition.
Those in favor of going into non-public, Mr. Belo?
Sure.
Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Mrs. Doobie?
Yes.
Dr. Farah?
yes.
Mrs. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Dye?
Yep.
Mrs. Sherman?
yes.
Mr. Ward?
Sure.
Can we have a bio break for like 1 minute?
Go for it, yeah, by the time, you're gonna have it anyway.